It's like you're training for the Olympics. You run track and you train for years. And then you get there, and as you're about to start the race, someone comes in and breaks your leg. That's kind of like what film acting is. You practice, you rehearse in really like in a very controlled environment. And then you get to set and it's really cold. Everyone is freaking out a little bit. So then you have to basically do the thing that you've been training in the worst set of circumstances possible. But I like that. That's the challenge.
Filmmaker Magazine presents Back to One with Peter Rinaldi.
Hugo De Sousa is an actor. He sat down with me on the Upper West Side of Manhattan to talk about the work.
Is there a typical way that you like to begin your preparation process when you get a new character?
I normally just get really scared. I always start there. And I'm like, I don't know if I want to do this. What is this going to do to me?
Yeah.
I get really scared that it's going to affect me in a weird way. You know, especially if it's like a heavy sort of subject and it's like the character, I don't know, I get scared. And then I'm like, I can't be scared.
Yeah.
And then just, working on the script, just reading the script and just getting comfortable with the material. Yeah, just getting over how scared I am. And then I just kind of start reading and sitting with the material. That's always the beginning for me. And then it kind of changes depending on what the project is. Mm-hmm. And yeah, it depends on the material.
And a lot of the acting I've seen you do has been in stuff you've written.
Yeah, I perform a lot of my writing. Yeah.
When you're writing, are you always writing for yourself, or are you just writing an idea and thinking, I may or may not cast myself in this?
I think I normally write things that I'm like, I want to act in this. And it's a great process because it's like because you kind of find the feelings of the performance when you're writing it. So when I then go and act, I don't have to go searching for those feelings. I already have them in me. So it does feel like a very natural process of like expression. Mm-hmm. Whereas like if I'm receiving a script that I didn't write, there's way more work to be done.
Right. Obviously the fear that you're talking about is not necessarily there when you write it, right? Or at least it's spread out over a long period of time of writing.
Yeah, that's right. Like I'm not as scared because
it gets diluted.
Yeah. I'm definitely not as scared. I'm normally excited.
Because you could do it because you're writing it for yourself, right? I mean, it's literally something you can do.
I'm hoping I can do it. There's always like, am I going to be the one who's going to like, is this not going to be good because I'm that's my biggest fear. Yeah. Is for someone to be like, that was great. The writing was great, but you shouldn't have cast yourself.
Right.
Yeah, it's just something I have to deal with.
I can't imagine anyone saying that about anything I've seen you in. Just so you know. Really. I mean, it's more like people saying, oh, now I want to write something for that dude.
Thank you. Yeah.
That's true. Tell me about your beginnings. When did you want to do this? Did you get training for this? I don't even know.
I did. I went to HB Studios.
Oh yeah.
Here in New York with the Hagen School.
Yeah.
Do you know that school?
Sure.
I was there for a year. I did the core program. It was like 5 days a week.
Nice.
All day.
Yeah.
Our class was really small, so we were on stage like every day.
Wow.
So it was really intense like that.
Yeah.
To the point that I was like, I don't think I want to go to school anymore.
Yeah.
Which I kind of regret looking back. Because I moved to Los Angeles right after that. Mm-hmm. And I think I didn't go to school in LA, which really stopped me from making friends for a while. I don't know if that was the best decision just in terms of my social life. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I went to that school And then I went to LA and I was kind of focused on getting work.
Mm-hmm.
I was very delusional because I didn't know anyone, you know. And then I found out that it's a very long process.
Yeah. Something tells me though that a year feels right for training. I mean, I know that this is going to be a controversial thing because there's a lot of people that might say, you know, the right thing is actually a 4-year program or something like that for actors. But I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't. You're saying you regret it because of friends, but I hope you're not regretting it because of actual training, because I think just doing it is the best education, don't you think?
I think so, especially because when it comes to like acting in movies and television, it's a very mysterious thing.
Yeah.
That's why like first timers are sometimes are really good. You know, it's like it's not one of those things that you kind of just, you go to school for 4 years and then you're really good. Like this is not how it works. It's a very complex thing. We were actually talking about this. I do think it's good for you to be out of balance when you're in front of the camera.
Yeah.
And if you feel like you're too much in control of your process and you're like, I'm ready, and you're very structured with the way you go about it, and you get on set and you're like, I'm prepared.
Yeah.
Sometimes that doesn't work at all in front of the camera, because that's the last thing the audience wants to see. Is like a guy who feels really good about their whatever they're doing. You know, they want to see you kind of like off balance and scared and kind of like reaching and I think a lot of good work comes from that. So I feel like if you go to school for too long, you might get it's tricky.
How crazy is this endeavor that you don't want it to become too easy?
That's the danger with like television, I think.
Yeah.
If you do a show for 10 years, you get really good at acting.
Yeah.
And then you try to do a movie and you're like, oh, that guy is really good at acting. You know, that's all you're thinking about when you're watching it.
Right.
It becomes kind of, you can tell that it's too easy for them. And they just look like they're too in control.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, they're too comfortable on set.
And you were saying, and this is fascinating, I think people would agree with you here. You were saying that you were watching a tape that you had made of a lot of successive takes
for an audition, and how in the beginning you weren't so certain about things and you were thinking it was bad as you were in it. And then you calmed down, you got more confidence, and you're thinking, oh, this is good. This is good.
Yeah.
Then you finally stopped the tape and you looked back and you realized that the stuff in the beginning actually was so much better in your own eyes. We still don't know if this is true.
Yeah,
right?
it's true.
Because it's true.
It's subjective.
But so much better at the beginning because of this sense of you not having a handle. Exactly what you're talking about. Not having a handle on it created a sense of reality in the moment whereas toward the end of those takes where you were feeling good and in control and it just doesn't have that aliveness. I'm using words that maybe you didn't use, and you tell me if they were different. But that's fascinating.
That's exactly. In the moment, I did like a bunch of takes in a row. I had like a 12-minute long take. And as I was doing it, I felt like, this is what it feels like. I'm getting better at, I'm starting to know the scene. I look this way, all the other characters, I know all my eye lines. Yeah. It just felt like, this is what working hard at this feels like. And I was like, okay, the later takes are for sure the better ones. Yeah. And then I took a break. I never look at it in the moment. I kind of like, if a friend is over, I'm like, okay, thank you so much. I appreciate it. You go, like, I don't have another shot at it. Yeah. Because you can do it all day. Right. And that doesn't mean you're getting better. And then I looked at it, and the first few takes were much better just because, and and they didn't feel great in the moment.
Right.
That's the thing that happens to me a lot. Like good works doesn't feel that great sometimes in the moment.
Right.
Because you're completely off balance and you're still grasping for reaching for the words, and you're really listening because you know your lines, but not that well. So you really have to listen to your scene partner because you need those cues to know where the scene is going. So it just feels really alive because you're so in the moment.
Right. Present.
But it doesn't feel good. It feels like you're sucking and you want to stop.
Yeah.
That's when you want to stop and now let's go back.
You're saying that Christopher Nolan said that so many actors stop a take that's going well.
Yeah.
Right? Is that what
he said that whenever an actor wants to stop the take and he's like, no, stop, let's just go back. They're always great. It's always the best take and they just ruined it. Because it doesn't feel good in the moment. Because you're not comfortable.
Right.
And so I now kind of I search for that feeling. And
that's the thing, right? So you search for it, but how do you create it when it can't be created, I guess, because if you're creating it, then you're in control and then it's not good. So you have to cultivate this experience of not knowing.
It's like if you're starting to get comfortable, you need to do something to throw you off balance again.
Yeah.
Maybe start the scene in a different way, or you have to find a way to go back to that beginning stage of exploration, and you're like, I don't know what I'm still trying to figure out what the scene is about.
Yeah.
When you're too sure of it, it gets tricky.
When you see the limited resources we have of seeing somebody like John Cassavetes creating that kind of thing with people, throwing them off, always making it a little dangerous. This is what he's going for, obviously.
And he doesn't feel I remember Peter Falk, after they shot Husbands, I don't think he had that feeling of we just made a great film.
No,
it doesn't feel that way.
That's right.
He feels like I have no idea if this is usable.
Right.
Because you're not in control of what's happening.
That's right. He didn't even want to work with him again, I don't think.
Yeah, because exactly, because it doesn't feel like you're doing a good job.
Yeah. Obviously, you need experience to get better. But if you get better in a certain way and you're more in control, then you can actually become really stale, especially in film acting, of course.
Yeah, but if experience means you're just going to feel really great after every take, I don't know what that, if that's, I think experience can mean I'm getting better at finding ways to keep this scene alive.
Yeah.
And I'm getting better at living with this feeling, and I'm getting better at throwing myself off, trying new things. I need to live in this space.
Yeah.
If experience means I'm just really good at my job and I feel great after every scene that I'm in, I don't know if that's watchable for the audience,
Right. I remember when I first saw you in a film, it was oddly and ironically Frank Mosley sending me the event before it was finished. And I remember thinking then, and I swear it's true, I was thinking, all right, who is this guy? Because this really made an impression on me. It always has to be a little bit fresh for me to respond. That's the thing about comedy. Once I'm laughing at something, its shelf date is very short, meaning comedy gets old for me fast. A style of comedy. And I always need it to be a little bit ahead of me and a little bit, and it's even hard to talk about this like that. And I think I think there's so much instinct going on in this. But talk about meeting. How did you meet Frank Mosley, and what made you guys want to collaborate like this? I don't think Frank collaborates a lot, right? Is this his first collaboration?
As a director,
Yeah.
probably. I think so. We met doing this, which people are surprised to hear because
What do you mean met doing it?
we met in person for the first time during the location scout for the event.
Really?
We knew each other because it was during the pandemic, so we met over Zoom a few times.
And how did you? Who met who?
We met at a table read, Zoom table read
For some other film.
for some other
Ah.
film, and then I reached out. We started talking, and then I was like, "Oh, do you want to do something?"
Yeah.
And then I had this idea. He liked it. He laughed. I wrote the script,
Yeah.
and we're like, "Let's do it."
Yeah.
And we met in person in my house for the first time, just kind of taking pictures of my bedroom and stuff
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, were you a fan of Friends?
Oh, of course. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Him on both sides of the camera, or
course.
just okay,
Yeah.
cool. So you knew. All right. So you knew that this.
I love
guy
Parthenon, which I know you're a fan of
I'm a
too.
big fan of that film. Yeah. What's so shocking to me is that you guys seem like you have a rapport in the film of old friends.
People are shocked when I
Yeah.
tell them this. They're actually a little bit disappointed. Yeah. And I'm like, but we did connect really fast. Like we really have, fell for each other really fast.
Yeah.
And I guess that shows on camera.
Yeah. And did you guys just split all of the duties with this? Like, did you all the decision-making processes?
It wasn't so much of a split. We just talked about everything together.
Yeah.
And for some reason, we never had like a disagreement, or we kind of have the same taste, and we really knew what. I remember when I pitched him the idea, we immediately started talking about the same film. It's really dark. They're whispering. They're whispering to each other. Like we had the same movie in our heads.
Yeah.
That's why it was so clear that we should go direct.
Yeah.
Even though, like in retrospect, it's like the leaps of faith.
Yeah.
That both of them,
Yeah.
they worked out. Yeah.
Yeah. And this film has had a nice, long tour, if you will, around festivals and stuff.
Run. Yeah.
And that led to the other film that was sent to me in an early version.
Good Condition.
Good Condition.
Yeah.
Which I eagerly this time then pressed play because I was such a fan of the event. And this one's very different. But Frank directed this one and you didn't. Is that what is that about? Like, but you wrote it.
I wrote because there's only one actor in the film. It's like a one-man show,
right?
So it would be weird for me to like be the only actor and also like co-direct.
Very true.
So I was like, I'll just focus on acting for this one.
Did that dynamic change though?
No, we still talked about everything.
Yeah.
Nothing really changed from the way we made the event.
Not everybody can do what you're doing here in terms of because it is just you and your monologue at the door is perfection. I mean, like if you have one little thing off there, it's going to be not as funny, not as engaging. The whole premise is kind of going to fall apart there. What's the ratio of, we're just talking about how things have to be on the edge here, but what's the ratio of being prepared to being spontaneous with something like that?
The night before, I do like to be at a point that I can, I want to feel like I can take the monologue in every single direction.
Yeah.
I'm not deciding what to do.
Yeah.
The night before, I'm like, let me do it like this, or go a little bit bigger, or be a little more this or that. I do like so many variations. And I just want to feel like I can go anywhere with this. And then on the day that you shoot it, I'm just hoping that I go with how I'm feeling, and I just stay true. I don't want to make a decision beforehand. I kind of like in the moment. It's what feels good. That's kind of like where I want to be with a monologue like that. I know, I know because otherwise, like, your ego gets involved, because you're like, I want it to be like this, and I want to get really big, and then do this or that.
Yeah.
I want to cry here. I want to laugh out. You know, it's just I don't like making decisions like that, because I just want to stay true to whatever I'm feeling in the moment, and that take, like, so much was going on. Like, we were shooting outside. Someone was racing in my neighborhood for some reason. The cars were
like with a motorbike.
Yeah. So we had our producer went to talk with them, and then dogs were barking. It was so much going on in my neighborhood. My neighbors were like coming out of the houses, like, and watching. And when we had to shoot it so fast, and it was like the biggest chunk of the film.
Oh.
We had like 3 takes, and the one on the film, it's the first one, and and I think we only had like one more that was kind of usable. So it's a miracle.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
You're really hoping for a miracle.
Yeah.
But you kind of also, like, I try to let all of that affect me.
Yeah.
I like to absorb all of that and kind of use it.
Yeah. Well, I guess that's the hardest part, because you're also involved with the production. You know what I mean? It's one thing if you're hired to be somewhere and you could put on the hat of the actor and just use everything. But when it's your film, you know what I mean, that you wrote and you're producing it,
it's vulnerable, because I'm basically like, I write a monologue. I'm like, hey, people, hey, come to my house. I'm going to perform something for everyone. It's like, you feel like such an idiot.
Right.
But it's that feeling vulnerable. It's good. It's a good thing.
Yeah.
And you get a little like red on your cheekbones, but that's good. It means like you're doing something that's scary, and I think that all those feelings play well to the camera.
Yeah.
You shouldn't I don't try to block them. I used to, not anymore, I don't think.
I guess what you're hinting at here is that something that I've kind of been thinking about, which is people should be making their own little films with no crew, just with their friends. But now I'm thinking, based on what you just said, like, there's not going to be that little bit of red on your cheeks when the stakes are so low, when you're just with your friends.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That can be tricky,
But that could, there's some benefit to that. You could be loose and you could really play, and you have time.
Yeah.
But it doesn't have that sense of urgency and that sense of like, these people are over here because they believe in me and they trust me, and I'm wasting their time.
Yeah.
And I have to perform now.
I love that. I think that I think, I mean, it depends with everyone. I do think like independent cinema, it's like it's like robbing a bank, basically. That's the closest I'll ever get to that feeling, because you're really you're trying for the impossible.
Yeah.
Like, there's very little time. Everyone is watching. I mean,
it's like robbing a bank.
And it's kind of like it's like I don't know if this is a good metaphor, but it's like you're training for the Olympics, and I don't know the name of these things. You run track.
Yeah.
And you train for years.
Yeah.
And then you get there.
Yeah.
And as you're about to like start the race, someone comes in and like breaks your leg.
Yeah.
That's kind of like what film acting is.
Yeah.
You train, you practice, you rehearse in really like in a very controlled environment. And then you get to set and it's really cold.
Yeah.
Everyone is freaking out a little bit. You know,
you get to the set a half a day behind. So now you only have 20 minutes.
Yeah.
To do a scene you've been thinking about for 3 years.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
And then
so then you have to basically do the thing they've been training in the worst set of circumstances possible. But I like that. That's a challenge.
I'm going to call you if I'm ever in a situation like that, because I really want to know what the frick you like about that. I mean, what is it? Is you're saying that it's the energy of that pressure is what you're feeding off of?
Yes. that sounds crazy.
No, it doesn't, because it would sound crazy if I hadn't talked to all these actors. But after all these people, this is making sense, because it's all you're playing in an energy. You have to accept the energy.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Yeah.
And a high stakes energy actually is a high quality energy.
Yes.
So you want to actually play in high quality energy.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. You want to interpret that energy in a positive way.
Yeah.
If you interpret it in a very negative way, it will have the opposite effect.
Right. Right. But that's hard, man. That's why I'm saying you're going to get a phone call if I'm ever on something like that, because I have to be reminded of that. Because it's so easy to just fall into the pressure of it and to crumble. You know? And I'm not talking about just as an actor. I'm talking about anybody on it, both sides of the of the camera or whatever.
Yeah, everyone is under the same stress, honestly.
Yeah. Yeah. And, you know,
actors are giving their face to the, they can't really hide.
Right.
So that's the only difference.
And here I am trying to cultivate an experience where there is no pressure like that, where I'm convinced that independent filmmakers should be working with the least amount of crew as possible, and the least amount of equipment as possible, because we can nowadays, and have the time to do certain things. But if we did all that, we wouldn't have what you're talking about, like that. And there's good things and there's bad things to that, but it's making me think, like, what if the pressure is actually what spawns some of this great stuff we've seen?
Yeah. Yeah.
I think people have to rise to the occasion.
Yeah, you're under pressure, so you're forced to come up with something.
Yeah.
It might work, might not, but you're forced to use your imagination and be in the, because you have nothing else. It's that's why I love this so much. It's such a mysterious thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
I remember Al Pacino. I don't know, doing the Q&A or something. He was like, he was talking to the actor next to him. He was like, imagine that if we had the same amount of time we have for rehearsal in theater, in movies. Imagine if we had that time before we got on set. And I understand what he's saying, but I don't know if that would make for a better performance. I think it's a different thing. It's a different beast.
Fassbender would do all these movies with one take. Almost all Fassbender's movies. And everyone knew they only had one take.
Yeah.
I mean, imagine knowing that this maniac is going to move on no matter what happens. Then everybody's at the top of their game. Have to be.
Yeah. And the thing with, if you're an actor in that situation, is that let's say the scene starts and you're immediately off balance. You said something and you're like, this didn't come out. You feel like it started wrong. Like you feel bad.
Yeah.
But you can't stop.
Yeah.
So you have to fight through it. And now all of that is going to play to the camera.
Yes.
Because now you're a person trying to fight through all these emotions that you're feeling.
Yes.
And the film just transforms and it just feels very alive.
Right. Yeah.
There's something about fighting through emotions during the scene that I think it plays.
Yes.
If you're really comfortable and you're not fighting anything, obviously I'm not arguing. It feels like I'm arguing for no. I think there's a middle term, obviously.
Yeah.
I think there's like downsides to one take. There's downsides to 100 takes,
Right. That's right.
But I feel like the second you feel comfortable and you feel like, oh, it's fine. I'll just do another one.
Right.
I think that's tricky.
Right.
It has to be tricky because now you're comfortable.
Right. We think, the best directors make everyone comfortable, and so, but there is like you're saying, there is some kind of middle ground, because it's not necessarily, you want this kind of tension, you want this kind of energy, but you also want a director to be
loving and accepting and not tension filled, because that's also going to help too. So there has to be a certain middle ground of all of this that's going to lead. It's almost like the recipe has to be right of all of this.
It's a balance. It's like, I think you can rehearse. I think it can be really important to rehearse. But then a good director on the day finds a way to like throw a little bit of chaos in there.
Yeah.
Just so the actors are a little off balance.
Yeah.
If you come in like, we got this, we already did it in rehearsal, we're just gonna do what we did in rehearsal. I think that's tricky,
Yeah. Yeah. There's a movie you just made.
Yeah.
Called
Je ne sais pas un star de cinéma.
Yeah.
I don't have a great French accent.
It's almost like an audition tape. It acts as an audition tape.
Yeah, I think it has the feeling that someone found this.
Right.
I guess it is a found footage.
A very unfortunate audition.
Yes. And it's funny because that's the film doesn't have credits at the end because I wanted people to have still kind of wonder, like,
Yeah. Which would be laughable if the performance wasn't the way it is. Do you know what I mean? It feels real. And it has to feel real. Otherwise, we don't put credits at the end. Everyone's like, what's this about?
Yeah.
But now it's like mysterious.
I kind of also like, I worked so hard to make it real.
Yeah.
To cut to credits at the end just felt like, I'm just kidding.
Right.
It's just really, I tried it and I was like, man, it just doesn't feel good. That's not the feeling I want at the end. I want people to kind of wonder.
When you say you worked hard, what do you mean by that?
So when I wrote it, it read like an absurd comedy. It felt like a sketch.
Imagine, yeah.
I mean, it's so ridiculous.
Yeah.
And then I did everything from like performance to even the aesthetic. I worked with my DP to make it like it doesn't feel like a crew is there.
Yeah.
And it's very stripped down. The aesthetic is really like lo-fi.
Yeah.
And then the performances are really grounded. Like we don't treat it like it's a comedy.
Yeah.
It's not a comedy to them at all.
So wait, there are 3 people that you see besides yourself.
It's me, and then the reader comes on, and then this assistant also comes on and kind of helps me.
Yeah.
She helps me up from the floor.
That's right, yes.
And then there's someone behind the camera talking to me the entire time.
Yeah. But those people are all great actors.
Yes, they are. Yeah.
They have to be on your level of reality. They have to not be performative. Because otherwise it's going to take us out of this and we're going to realize this is a comedy film.
Yes.
Or trying to be a comedy film.
Yeah.
So, but how did you select those people and how did you direct them?
I didn't know most of them. I was just a fan, and I wanted to work with them, which is like a good thing about writing. You can use your writing to like convince people to work with you.
Yeah.
So I was a fan of them, and then the guy who plays my reader, his name is Hugo Armstrong. Is one of my favorite actors. So the good thing sometimes about acting in your own films is that you can kind of set the tone.
Yeah.
So I think I didn't sit down with them and was like, oh, this is the tone.
Yeah.
I kind of just showed them what the tone was because I'm in it for them. I'm always in front of the camera.
Yeah.
So I think they kind of they're so talented that they just adapted to whatever was happening. I think honestly, when they read it, they might have thought this is like this absurd comedy that we're gonna do. But then on the day, I think they all kind of adjusted to what I was doing.
That's so cool. That's so cool. And it works. I mean, it works because of that they are able to be on that level with you. You know, it's like true supporting actors.
Yeah, they're
supporting you.
Supporting me, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
They're just really intuitive and talented.
Is this your primal scream as an actor about having to do self-tapes? Or, well, this is not really self-tape in this case.
It's in the,
this is mimicking an in-person audition.
Audition, yeah.
If we looked inside your psyche that created this, what are you trying to say about this endeavor of auditioning?
I can only say things like in retrospect. It's like in the moment when I'm making it, I think everything is kind of mysterious to me, like my intent and stuff. And then like months later, I look back and I'm like, oh, okay. So all of this is in all these feelings that I had are in it. Auditioning and stuff, you go into a room and you're vulnerable in front of people. I'm naked in the film, and at the time I lost a lot of weight in 2019 because I had surgery. I had my gallbladder removed, and I lost a lot of weight, and it took me a long time to gain it back. And I have like 4 scars in my stomach. So I think unconsciously I was dealing with that when I made it. And then auditioning is tough because people just assume actors are down for anything.
Yeah.
And in Hollywood now, there's this thing that they ask you to audition for secret projects because they want to protect. They don't want spoilers.
Yeah.
So they basically have you audition for like an untitled studio project, and they give you sides that are not related to the film, and then you get cast. And at no point, no one checks in with you and like, oh, this is the project and this is and the fact that they have that power and they use it, it's kind of perverse, I think.
Yeah.
And dark. I have conflicting feelings about that. So the movie kind of explores that. I mean, this happened to a friend of mine. He auditioned and got like a huge movie, like one top 5 box office movies of last year. It has a big scene in the film. He got the job. He showed up, went through wardrobe and makeup, was waiting in his trailer in full makeup and wardrobe, and still didn't know the name of the director, what the scene was.
Whoa.
Knew nothing.
Not even the scene.
Nothing. And then an assistant showed up, and as she walked him to set, she gave him the information. And he told me this, and again, this is a great project for him. So he told me this like, this is like the best story ever. Yeah. And I was like, that's crazy. You were in full makeup and still didn't know the character you were about to play?
That's insane.
And at some point, I don't want to give too much details because I don't want to get him in trouble, but at some point they were even considering about like shaving his head because he made sense for the character. So he was like, I couldn't believe that no one treated him like a creative person coming into this thing.
Right.
They were just like, oh, of course he's going to show up. Wow. Of course. So the power imbalance is so crazy if you think about it.
Yeah.
So it's very loosely based on that, the short.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I made it right before the strikes. So the writing was kind of on the wall the entire time. I mean, I didn't know we're gonna go into a strike, but you see stuff like that a lot. Actors are just they just assume you're just gonna be there.
Right. Right.
And we are up. If we trust the director and the project, we are up for a lot of things that most people wouldn't.
Right.
But we need to know about the project. Like, tell us something. Like this idea that you just And the thing is, like, I think my friend got paid like $700 for that day. And there's no residuals because the movie went to streaming. So it's like,
unbelievable.
We don't even get a compensation. There's no financial compensation anymore. Right. So it's like, okay.
Right.
Wow. So the movie's just dealing with a lot of feelings I have around that. But as I'm doing it, I'm not trying to, it's hard to sit down and be honest. How do you do that? I don't know.
Yeah.
I think I'm always lying to myself and creating narratives that only in retrospect, I can like look at something and be like, oh, that was honest about this, or,
Yeah.
So I'm saying all of this like in looking back in retrospect.
Yeah, right.
I thought I was making an interesting, movie with my friends. And I had this idea that I wasn't really in control of, Yeah.
And what do you need from a director, have you realized this after directing yourself and other people and things, when you go back and you are being directed by somebody else? Are you just tapping into what you actually need?
I feel like I kind of adapt to however the director. I don't come in like, oh, this is how I like to be treated, or I need this or that. I kind of just adapt to whatever the environment is, and I kind of I observe the director and I kind of try to adapt to.
Yeah. Is this a survival tactic? Like when actors tell me that, I'm always like, well, that's because you have to do that, right? But what if you didn't have to?
I mean, it's a tricky situation. It's like I said, if you don't trust the director, you're in for like a terrible time.
Right.
Because how do you take risks? You know, going back to feeling uncomfortable and off balance, like how do you go to that place if you don't trust who's at the helm? You know, so. Right. But it's not to say that conflict is not good.
Right.
You know, I actually think people are too scared of any sort of conflict on set.
Yeah.
I think you should come with ideas for the scene and what the character is, and it's the job of the director to put you in the right film.
Yeah.
That's their job. And hopefully you're comfortable and you trust them in a way that you can show up to set and just be open to anything.
Yeah. Yeah.
At least that's what I like. You know, I'm down I'll try things.
Yeah.
Because I trust you.
Right.
Because if it becomes too much conflict and you're just egos get involved, and that's tricky too.
Right.
You know?
Right.
In addition to not being a great time, but conflict is good, but you know, you need to make sure your ego is not coming in and because now
that muddies it up.
Yeah.
Yes. In an ideal situation, paint us a picture of how you would be spending your time in this endeavor.
Just constantly working with people that excite me. Just talented, exciting people, and doing things that scare me and getting better. I want to be challenged. Hopefully I can also challenge the audience and in some ways, and I want films the projects I'm involved in to go places that are scary.
Yeah.
At least that's what good art feels to me. You know, I love that feeling when I'm like, oh man, I can't.
Yeah.
They're walking a really dangerous line. I can't believe I'm watching this. I'm witnessing this.
Yeah.
And then you can't stop thinking about it. So yeah, working with great people that I'm excited about, that are really talented, and just, you know, making art that hopefully people will remember. And hopefully also having experiences that will stay with me and that will help me grow. And yeah, you know, you're trying to do things that make you feel alive, you know?
Yeah.
And again, I love to feel comfortable and happy and go home and be like, that was a great day. But I don't, you know. But ultimately, that's not what I'm chasing, really. If I'm anywhere close to those feelings, I'm not. I want to take risks, and taking risks it's not a
comfortable thing.
It's not a comfortable thing, yeah.
Hugo De Sousa, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Back to One is a production of Filmmaker Magazine, which is a publication of The Gotham, formerly IFP. Listen to back episodes of this podcast at filmmakermagazine.com or wherever you get your podcasts.